Hello Horizon, my name is Meredith, and the verse for today's devotional comes from John 1:14. It says, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory. Glory is of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth." I was excited to be doing a devotional on this passage because I heard a sermon in high school that was impactful for me, because it talked about how those words, dwelt among us, translate literally to tabernacled, or for our understanding today, it might be better to say moved into the neighborhood. So Jesus came into the neighborhood. These words that John used are an allusion to God dwelling among the Israelites in the tabernacle. And upon hearing this, it kind of deepened my understanding of who Jesus is. He fulfills the symbolism for God's dwelling with man. I'm learning right now in a theology class that what is revealed about Jesus in the New Testament can change the way we see the Old Testament. So knowing about Jesus, we can see that the tabernacle was a foretaste of what was to come, which is a living and breathing revelation of God in Jesus. The tabernacle was the place of God's presence, but Jesus, the replacement for or fulfillment of the tabernacle, is God. I think to understand this better, we have to ask the question of who is God? If Jesus is the Son of God, then it would be important to know who he is revealing to us. In the Old Testament, God reveals himself in Exodus 34, verses 5 through 8, as merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. These are probably familiar because this verse is the most quoted in the entire Bible. It describes who we know God to be. When Jesus came to earth as human, he did not cease to be God. He retained these attributes of mercy, grace, love, faithfulness, and being slow to anger. Later in this John passage, in John 1, John describes how no one has ever seen God, but that Jesus had made him known. Jesus gave a human example of what God's attributes look like here on earth. The questions of who is God, what is he like, what does he think of us humans, are all answered in the person of Jesus in a way that we can understand. Love and faithfulness sound so abstract on their own to me, but Jesus shows us a proper example of what that looks like in day-to-day life. Another aspect of who Jesus is revealed in this passage is the part that says he is the only Son from the Father. The word only here means one of a kind or unique, which is not how I would have originally read this passage. The dictionary defines unique as existing as the only one or as the sole example, limited to a single outcome or result, without alternative possibilities. I thought this was interesting because it relates to how Jesus was the only possible answer to humanity's broken state. The only way to pay for sins was through someone fully human and fully God. There are no alternative possibilities. So I hope these attributes of Jesus encourage you today. Grace and peace, Horizon.